Greetings, Inklings, and welcome to a ghoulish night, where I have given the Archivist a ghastly fright, for the time has come for him to heed that a donator's book he must read. Tonight is the night that he must take action and read Disney Kingdom's Haunted Mansion.
I really shouldn't let donors make requests by video. October is upon us here at the Comic Archivist, and while there are many truly horrific comics I could be covering on this most festive day, nothing terrifies me more than a request that has been in my queue for far too long. Thanks to Megan Klodnicki for donating to request this review. Yes, it is technically a package donation, that means I will be getting to all of the other Disney Kingdom comics, but that's not today. So lock your doors, bar your windows, and remember, this is only a Disney Attractions IP, so it can't hurt you. Disney Kingdoms is a line of comics made to create a full universe out of the attractions from the Disney theme parks. It isn't that strange of an idea, since most Disney parks do have a linking connection, like with the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, or just the specific link between the Pirates of the Caribbean ride and the Haunted Mansion. So it is safe to say that there are good ways to connect these all together. The Disney Kingdoms line of comics sorta does that. Based on the infamous movie. Okay, I needed to get that gag out of the way quickly and quietly. Based on the iconic dark ride, this is Haunted Mansion. Fun little aside, this is also the 50th anniversary of this beloved attraction. Cue the opening and let's check out these 99 happy haunts.
Happy haunts materialize, and begin to vocalize, grim-grinning ghosts come out to socialize.
Starting off before the story, I really dig all of the covers to all of these comics. EM just really made some spectacular, almost concept art looking visuals of the Haunted Mansion that is just brilliant. This tale begins proper, as any good ghost story, in New Orleans, Louisiana, as locals give their knowledge of the spooky house on the hill. You know, your standard stuff like a headless horseman seen riding around, there's a woman who kept killing her husband and then died in the attic, crazy psychic kept summoning up ghosts, but of course the only true answer is that there was a pirate who used to live there. That's right, it's John LaFee! I'm sure I have a heavy crossover fan base with Offhand Disney who would love that joke. Cut to 15-year-old Danny Crow and his grandfather outside the gates of the old antebellum manor home. His grandfather keeps telling Danny to give into his curiosity and explore the definitely haunted house, but Danny is too terrified at that idea. So in what guarantees his grandfather will have a long, healthy life, he makes a deal with Danny that when he gets back from his next adventure, they'll explore the house together. We all know what that means. The granddad's expedition up the Matterhorn is met by the my mistake. It's just an avalanche that kills the grandpa. That's actually kind of underwhelming. Well, a month later, and Danny is talking to his grandfather's headstone. And I don't want to make any jokes because this is honestly a great scene showing the fallout of a family member's death. The biggest takeaway, though, is that Danny, for being a wuss, really has no problem walking down this very creepy road alone at sunset. Just saying. So Danny gets home to an empty house with two different notes from either parent saying that they will be running late and he should get a pizza. After having a nosh on some za, a strange voice begins to call him to the bathroom. There's a poor diet joke in there somewhere, but I'm not fishing for it. He goes into the bathroom and we have a woman beckoning him to the Haunted Mansion. Surprisingly, that strange ghostly woman is all he really needed to go into his grandfather's traveling trunk to get a pair of goggles and a flashlight. Also, just because this is the internet, what are those? Sorry, but damn, those shoes are just something else. So yeah, Danny is ready to face his fears of the Haunted Mansion, and after a jump scare by a crow, he goes in. After going through the front hallway quick, he reaches the stretching room, known throughout the world as a room that, stretches. But suddenly, his flashlight goes out. Luckily, though, the ghost really want him to get into the queue line, so he's now in the portrait corridor. As he slowly walks through, though, he notices the portraits shifting into more monstrous figures. However, here's where things get a bit intense as the Panther Lady and all the other monstrosities begin to leave their paintings. The Panther Girl chases after Danny, who's a lot more afraid of furries than a teen boy usually should be. He races into the conservatory, where he nopes right out of there as the coffin ghost does his thing. He continues fleeing down the corridor of doors, the portraits laughing at him all the while. More pressing matter, though, is that a less enticing ghost of the portrait corridor is ready to slice him in twain before he goes through one of the doors. It would have been the end for him had the room Danny entered not been the seance circle, where Madame Leota herself shouts and drives the ghosts back. Yeah, she's also the woman who summoned Danny through the bathroom mirror. Why? Because ghost pirate Captain Bartholomew Gore has trapped all of the happy haunts in the mansion to make them all angry and evil. Danny was summoned because his grandpa's spirit is also trapped in the house, and only the living can free the dead. Madame Leota then casts a spell so that he can see all the ghosts as well as all the monsters. He is their only hope. So the Phantom 5 will be his guide, even if there are 6 of them. The only big warning Leota gives is do not go into the attic, where Constance the bride resides. Oddly chipper about the whole ordeal, Danny follows the ghostly instruments down the endless hallway. However, to end the issue, the ghostly image of Constance Hatchaway, the bride, with her axe in hand, watches Danny and is being very creepy. Issue 2 continues straight out from that, with them continuing down the endless hallway leading to the Swinging Wake, arguably the most famous section of the Haunted Mansion ride. I'll ignore nerding out about how they actually got those effects for the ghosts on the ride, but I am going to say I actually like that they acknowledge what Disney does for the ride for Christmas. Oddly, I put an XD on the script. I spend way too much time online. Anywho, Pickwick here explains that they're trapped in that party, unable to come and go like they used to. Suddenly, a gentleman shoots at Danny, and that's a pretty spiffy bullet there, actually. Danny dives behind a table and wonders why he's being shot at, as though he wasn't told he needed to stop an evil pirate ghost. Luckily, the dueling ghosts are using enchanted bullets, so only living beings get hurt from them. It's actually not lucky for Danny, but hey, he's the minority here. Pickwick does shoo off the dueling ghosts so they don't ruin his party. Then we finally get some backstory about the captain and how he has control over the ghosts. Since Captain Gore died in the mansion, he also gained some of the dark magic of the house. Other ghosts were also able to tap into that as well. The comic showing Constance Hatchaway, Madame Leota, and apparently the Hatbox Ghost. Just thought that was neat and maybe it'll pay off later. Then Pickwick asks why Danny is even there, which leads to another scene with Danny and his grandpa. This time it's young Danny coming home from school with a wrecked bike. He had taken a dare to jump a swimming pool, but at the last second panicked and wiped out. His grandpa gives the best answer. It's not about falling, but about if you get back up. Grandpa even tells about a time when he tried jumping a gorge and broke some bones. This story, though, has bummed Danny out at the thought of his grandpa and him being dead. But Pickwick tells him to let go of all that mortal angst and join the party. I'm not that enthused that Pickwick has glowing red eyes when he says it. But that's okay, he totally just wants to turn on some tunes. See? Everything's happy. Elsewhere, Captain Gore is informed of their living guest, and he then monologues about his life, although it does actually explain his whole shtick. He's trapped in the mansion because he's still searching for the treasure hidden somewhere in the mansion, and that landlubber is gonna help him no matter what. Dun dun dun! Back with Danny, he does make a deal with Pickwick to try and have fun in return for his help. And, well, he does a very good job at having fun. However, when he goes to say that he should leave, he doesn't remember why he should leave. In fact, he decides he's never leaving again. Quickly to issue 3. Issue 3 actually starts with Captain Gore cutting through a wall in the mansion with his magic cutlass. Once again, though, he has only found an empty room and not the riches he's been seeking. So it's finally time for him to make his debut in the Grand Hall, where Danny is still partying heartily. However, the captain's spell to keep the ghosts partying in the Grand Hall has worked too well, and Danny won't leave, nor will Pickwick let him leave. Gore, not exactly having the best temper, then turns some of the ghosts into true horrors. Danny's still kind of under that spell, so he actually just asks one of the abominations to dance, and that goes as well as you suspect it would. But being thrown out of the room, Danny finally has his memories returning to him. Captain Gore, though, does not like this turn of events. Though it is good to know that his magic cutlass can kill ghosts too. In the hallway, the Hatbox Ghost poofs in to tell Danny to close the door since it's so loud, and Danny begs him to help, which Hatbox does sort of agree to, saying he could give him a real tour of the house, just in time for Captain Gore to reach the door and nearly get Danny. Also, I think they have a reference to the fact that the Hatbox Ghost was taken out of the attraction for never working. Nice! The Hatbox Ghost then teleports him and Danny to the MC Escher Room, or the Endless Staircase, which leads to the Ghostly Materials Gallery, which has tons of paintings of other haunted houses, each tied to the magic of the Haunted Mansion. Of course, this is where Danny has another bout of the, I can't do this is too scary, and I absolutely do have that panel with the Hatbox Ghost saying that anything that isn't a little scary in life usually isn't worth doing up on my Facebook page right now for everyone to steal. It's a good sentiment. Immediately following him saying that line, Hatbox leaves him in the lurch as Captain Gore stands triumphant in finding Danny again, with Madame Leota literally in hand. Danny shows some of his grandfather's bravery, but this is where we get the Act 3 liar revealed bit with Madame Leota. See, Danny's grandpa isn't actually in the mansion. Leota lied to him after hearing him talking to his grandpa in the graveyard. With that breaking of Danny's metaphorical spirits, the captain smashes Leota's crystal ball. Now that there is nothing to stop Gore, he finally tells Danny exactly where he must go that the captain cannot if he ever wants to leave the mansion alive. The attic. Yeah, you get the idea. Issue 4, the penultimate issue, begins in 1879 with another wedding for a young, beautiful Constance the bride. Yep, it's a bit of backstory of the great head-chopping ghost bride herself, although in the present, it's Captain Gore telling Danny all about it. Captain Gore also makes a far more persuasive point that Danny's going to go to the attic or else he'll be trapped in the haunted mansion forever as a ghost, 'cause he'll kill him. However, out of nowhere, Pickwick and a couple of the ghosts burst from the floor to save Danny. Weird. Typically, the fat lady sings at the end of the comic. Ba-dum-tsh. However, Pickwick still says that Danny needs to go to the attic, not because of the captain's treasure, but because he saw an open window that Danny could escape from. But surprise! The captain is also a waterbender. Who would have guessed? Danny can't outrun that tidal wave, and the hallway is submerged. But now there is only one way to go, and that's up. Well, he goes up and, oh hey, apparently the ghost host does make an appearance in this, 'cause there he is hanging in the rafters. Fun fact for anyone who doesn't know the ride, this would put Danny right above the stretching room from way back in the first issue. He needs to cross the gap though to get to the attic, and he doesn't think that he can make the jump, so cue another flashback with his grandpa. This time it's about needing to climb a ladder to reach to the top of that ladder. It's more poignant in the moment, I swear. Well, now instead of making the full jump to the ledge on the other side, he leaps onto the ghost host's swinging body. That is actually surprisingly dark. I like it. So he swings using the rotting corpse of the ride's narrator and makes it. He's now reached the final stage of his journey as he ascends the stairs to the attic. Constance is there, singing to herself in the mirror. Danny hides and watches as she goes about her madness. It's a surprisingly tense scene, even if it's because of the art more than anything else. I mean, Danny can't die, he's the hero of a Disney-themed comic. Looking around, Danny sees a chest and crawls over to it. Yet, the greatest treasure is the open window right behind it. That's when Constance Hatchaway begins to try and hatch away at Danny. She wants him to stay with her and be another one of her husbands, but in another swing, Danny stumbles out the open window, falling into what appears to be the outer limits. Alright, boys and ghouls, it's time for the final issue. And it opens with Danny falling in the most artsy way possible. Don't worry though, he's fine when he lands in a graveyard outside the house. Though he, like anyone who knows anything about gravity, now wonders if maybe he's a ghost now. However, when the very much alive caretaker and his skinny puppy comes along, he's able to see Danny. It's a short-lived friendship though, as the caretaker screams about ghosts and runs away, with Danny understanding immediately why as he turns around. The doors to the mansion are now all open, and the ghost can finally leave. Yeah, apparently all he had to do was showcase his bravery, and by the end, that broke the captain's curse. Even Captain Gore is happy, although that's because he's now not bound to the mansion, and can begin plundering the world's treasures again, starting with New Orleans. However, Danny shows his character growth as he moves to stand between the evil pirate captain and the other ghosts. He's not hiding that he's afraid, but he's going to be brave and use his fear to help him. I'm going to side with the captain on this one though. Overcoming fear is great and all, but usually it's not a good defense against the Cutlass. Eventually, Danny does get cornered, and the captain asks for his treasure, thinking that Danny's lying, that it wasn't in the attic. Best moment ever happens though, as Ghost Grandpa comes out of nowhere and throws a haymaker, knocking the captain down long enough for a hug and some exposition. See, apparently Ghost Grandpa has been following Danny since the graveyard, but due to the captain's curse, he couldn't enter the mansion to help. So now that the curse is lifted, he's got nothing stopping him from helping. Captain Gore gets back up, ready to continue his attack on Danny and his grandpa, but there's one thing no one expected. Constance Hatchaway, the axe-wielding bride. She straight up decapitates him. Then she just floats off with a knock to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Fast resolution, but kudos. Apparently Constance's big issue is that he was an unwanted guest before her wedding, and she also doesn't like guests that overstay their welcome. The wrap-up is fairly quick, with Pickwick and the rest of the ghosts deciding to stay in the now friendly haunted mansion, and they throw another party. On the personal side, Danny's grandfather has reunited with his dead wife. Danny says goodbye once again to his grandfather, never forgetting about what he learned that night. Danny's entire life, both home and school, got better after that moment. All in all, ghosts are a great way to cope with the death of a loved one. That may actually be the best way to sum up why I think this comic works so well. This book is not about the Haunted Mansion specifically, but rather using the Haunted Mansion as a plot device for a gripping character narrative about coping with the death of a loved one. The first issue really showcases a sincere and not over-the-top look at the loss of a family member, with both parents using negative coping mechanisms to try and hide their feelings. It could have easily gone the route that many other, dealing with death books do, with an over-the-top screaming about emotions, but it doesn't. Joshua Williamson writes this as losing their feelings rather than not being able to control their emotions. It is something rarely seen and why this plays out so well. Because of that, the only negative I may have, I'm very split on how quickly this story concluded. On one hand, you do have a very quick wrap-up of the Captain Gore-Constance plot, with literally just a splash page of Constance coming out of nowhere to cut off Captain Gore's head, and then float off with a coda of, "And we lived happily ever after." But, on the other hand, after Danny leaves the mansion, even if it wasn't exactly by choice, and standing up to an evil pirate ghost and everything like that, his character arc is all done. And it is a great means to show that just because a loved one is dead, that doesn't mean their lessons and their love dies with them. Granted, Then Goes Grandpa does come up, but after that moment, the narrative following Danny is fundamentally done, so a fast ending to see how he and his life has changed is kind of the point. I'm going to assume that if this got the 6-issue treatment, like many of the other Disney Kingdom books instead of the 5, there'd have been more of an action climax, with scaling the Grand Mansion and everything like that, who knows. But that's only a small niggle to what is essentially a great story. And I think that anyone who wants to celebrate the 50th anniversary should definitely pick up this comic. And with that, that's all for this video. If you agree, disagree, or just want to say how amazing the ride is, and I totally need to make a trip to Disneyland someday, let me know in the comments below. While you're down there, let me know what issues you'd like to see on the next Reader's History, Then and Now, or any of the other shows we have on this channel. We just restarted our Facebook page, which has panels, some fun vids, reviews, and generally other stuff that won't fit on my Twitter. Oh, and we also have Twitter. Go like and follow all of that. We also have a Patreon and direct donations with pricing in the description along with everything else I've mentioned, so please take a look. Also like, subscribe, and share to show YouTube that we actually exist algorithmically. More than any of that though, I'm AJ Carey, the Comic Archivist, and stay golden, Inklings.
Happy haunts materialize, and begin to vocalize. Grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize.